What if death is not the end? What if the boundary we believe to be absolute is in truth a door that some lives refuse to close? In the stillness of the natural world, death appears final, a sharp divide between what breathes and what has fallen silent. Yet scattered across Earth's forests, oceans, and deserts, a handful of creatures challenge this law. They linger on the threshold, refusing to step fully into silence. They bend the edge of mortality, blurring it, reshaping it, daring biology itself to defy the inevitable. These lives whisper of immortality, of resurrection, of time paused in defiance of decay. If life is a candle burning toward ash, these animals are keepers of hidden matches, striking flame again even after the wind has snuffed the light. Scientists search for the patterns beneath their survival. Some find clues in cellular resilience, where damage is resisted or repaired with impossible precision. Others see it in suspended animation, where the clock of existence slows to a near halt, as if time itself holds its breath. And some find it in regeneration, the uncanny rewriting of tissue and form, a rebirth that emerges from what was once thought lost. Is death a universal law, or merely a habit of nature, repeated until rare exceptions reveal its cracks? In this film, the journey will follow 5 extraordinary creatures. Each has rewritten the script of mortality in its own way. Each carries a hidden key to the lock we call death, and together, their stories ask the question humanity has always feared to face. What if the end is not the end? In the flowing waters of quiet ponds and gentle streams lives a creature so small that it passes unnoticed by most eyes. A translucent thread of life, no larger than a fingernail, its form appears delicate, almost fragile. Yet within this fragile body lies one of nature's most staggering secrets, the Hydra, a being that seems to have severed its ties with time itself. Where most organisms carry the weight of years, bending under the slow accumulation of damage, the Hydra resists. It does not wither, it does not grow frail. To the best of human observation, it does not age. It remains caught in a loop of renewal, a perpetual fountain of youth in the still waters of Earth. The secret lies in its cells. While the bodies of humans and animals accumulate scars of time at the molecular level, the Hydra's tissues are constantly remade. Within its body exists a vast population of stem cells, endlessly dividing, endlessly replacing, endlessly restoring. In most creatures, stem cells diminish with age. In the Hydra, they remain abundant, as if locked in an eternal cycle. A fragment of its body, no matter how small, can regenerate the whole. Sever a piece and a new organism emerges. It is as though death itself struggles to gain a foothold. Scientific studies conducted over years have revealed negligible senescence within these organisms. Researchers have observed populations of Hydra for decades, waiting for the curve of mortality to rise with age. Yet the curve remains flat. Unlike humans, whose chances of death increase each year, the Hydra's odds of survival do not change. A 1-year-old Hydra is as likely to live as a 50-year-old Hydra. For it, time appears to pass differently. This strange defiance of aging invites comparison to one of Einstein's greatest revelations. Time, he showed, is not absolute. It stretches and bends, running fast or slow depending on gravity and motion. To the Hydra, time may not bend in the relativistic sense, but in the biological one. Its body does not measure the passing of years as ours do. It exists almost as though it were outside the ordinary arrow of time, immune to its erosion. But even for the Hydra, immortality is not without shadows. These creatures can still be killed. A change in water chemistry, a hungry predator, or a sudden disease can bring their story to an end. Their defiance is not of death itself, but of aging, the slow decline that wears all other living things down. They embody immortality only in potential, a possibility rather than a guarantee. Still, the existence of the Hydra raises a profound question. If aging can be paused, even for the smallest of beings, what then is the meaning of death? For humanity, aging and death are inseparable, one flowing into the other like dusk into night. But here is a creature where dusk never falls, where the sky of existence remains eternally twilight. Perhaps the Hydra is not only a curiosity of biology, but a mirror held up to human longing. In its endless renewal lies the possibility that aging is not a fixed law, but a mechanism. A mechanism that, under the right conditions, might be altered. If that is true, then mortality itself may not be the unbreakable chain it seems. The Hydra drifts in its pond, untroubled, unaware of the mystery it embodies. Yet in its tiny body is written a story that challenges our most ancient fears. The story of a creature that refuses to grow old. A creature that lingers at the very edge of immortality. And in that lingering it whispers to us. Perhaps the threshold of death is not as absolute as we once believed. Beneath the thin film of moisture that clings to moss and lichen in droplets too small for the human eye to notice, lives a creature that seems drawn from the imagination of a dream. Rounded, plump, and slow in its movements, it has been called the water bear, though its body is measured not in inches or feet, but in fractions of a millimeter. It is the tardigrade. And within this microscopic form lies a survival strategy so profound that it forces us to reconsider what it means to be alive, and what it means to die. The tardigrade endures in places where existence itself should be impossible. On mountaintops where oxygen thins to almost nothing, in the black pressure of the deep ocean, where crushing weight folds steel and silence reigns, in deserts that parch the earth into dust, and most astonishing of all, in the vacuum of outer space where radiation streams unfiltered, temperatures plunge, and air does not exist. It is a creature not simply adapted to its environment, but adapted to environments it was never meant to encounter. The key lies in a state of being known as cryptobiosis. When threatened with desiccation, starvation, or extreme cold, the tardigrade retracts into itself. Its legs draw inward, its body shrinks, and its metabolism slows until it is indistinguishable from death. Water, the essence of life, is almost completely drained. In this cryptobiotic state, the tardigrade becomes a husk, a curled speck, no longer moving, no longer eating, no longer responding. It is suspended on the knife's edge between existence and non-existence. But unlike death, this suspension is not an ending. It is a pause. With the return of moisture or warmth, the tardigrade unfurls, rehydrates, and stirs back into motion. What seemed lifeless becomes alive again. A spark reignites in a body that had lain silent for years, even decades. The tardigrade demonstrates that death, at least in part, can be delayed, held back, even defied. NASA tested the resilience of these tiny survivors in one of the harshest laboratories available, the vacuum of space itself. In 2007, tardigrades were exposed to open space on the European Space Agency's Photon M3 mission. They endured the vacuum, the radiation, the freezing and burning cycles of direct sunlight and shadow. Many revived upon return, some even managed to reproduce. Against the void, against conditions that would end every complex organism known to us, the tardigrade endured. In doing so, it became the first animal known to survive the unprotected emptiness beyond Earth. Their resilience is not absolute. Prolonged extremes can eventually overwhelm even the tardigrade. But the fact remains, where every definition of life should fail, they succeed. Their DNA is protected by unique proteins that shield against radiation damage. Their cells contain sugar molecules like trehalose that preserve structure when water vanishes. And their compact bodies can lie dormant for decades, waiting for the world to become habitable once more. The philosopher might ask, then, what is death? If life can be suspended so thoroughly that it appears gone, yet later rekindled, is death truly an absence of activity? Or is it the absence of possibility? The tardigrade suggests that as long as possibility remains, however remote, however delayed, life itself may still linger in silence. Stephen Hawking once warned that humanity's survival depends upon its ability to adapt, to persist, to expand beyond the fragile cradle of Earth. He envisioned a species tested by catastrophe, forced to discover ways to endure the unimaginable. In the tardigrade, we see an evolutionary echo of that vision. A creature that embodies persistence not through dominance or intelligence, but through endurance. It survives not by conquering its environment, but by withdrawing until it can rise again. The tardigrade is not immortal. It can still be destroyed. Yet in its ability to resist the finality of death by suspension, it becomes a symbol of life's unyielding determination. A reminder that survival is not always about movement or strength, but sometimes about waiting, holding, conserving until the moment of return. To the human imagination, death has always been a door that slams shut. The tardigrade reveals another image, a door that may close only halfway, waiting for the right hand, the right season, to push it open again. And so the water bear drifts quietly through its hidden world, unseen by most who pass it by. Yet within its microscopic body lies a lesson written in survival itself, that even in silence, even in stillness, life may endure. That death, in the deepest sense, may not be the extinguishing of flame, but only the lengthening of shadow. In this tiny, improbable creature, the universe whispers its oldest secret. That life, fragile as it seems, holds within it the strength to wait out eternity. In the vast stillness of the ocean, where light dissolves into silence and time itself feels unmeasured, there drifts a creature so small that it passes almost unseen. A fragile bell, no larger than a fingernail, translucent as glass and delicate as a whisper. Yet hidden within this fragile form lies one of the most extraordinary secrets of life on Earth. It is known as Turritopsis dohrnii, the immortal jellyfish. Unlike most beings whose stories flow in a single direction, from birth to youth, from age to decline, this creature bends the arrow of time into a circle. Where others march toward an inevitable end, it turns back upon itself. Like a book that refuses to reach its final chapter, it resets the page, returning its story to the beginning. The process is as remarkable as it is mysterious. When injured, starved, or threatened by environmental stress, Turritopsis dohrnii does not simply die. Instead, it transforms. Its adult cells undergo a process known as transdifferentiation. Each cell, specialized for one purpose, can shed its role and become something entirely new. A muscle cell becomes a nerve cell. A reproductive cell becomes a structural one. And together they reverse the entire architecture of age. The adult medusa collapses back into its earliest stage, returning to the polyp from which it once arose. It is as though a butterfly, wounded and fading, could dissolve back into a caterpillar, as though the river of time itself had been forced to flow uphill. This transformation can be repeated again and again, in theory without end, a cycle of rebirth that challenges the very definition of mortality. For humans, aging is a gradual unraveling. Cells lose their ability to divide, DNA accumulates damage, tissues weaken, and the body drifts toward entropy. The immortal jellyfish defies this decline. Its cells refuse to be trapped in destiny. They carry the flexibility of youth into the far reaches of age, as if time itself were negotiable. Scientists have long sought to understand the mechanisms behind this reversal. Transdifferentiation is rare, but not unknown. In laboratories, stem cells demonstrate similar versatility, capable of becoming many types of tissue. Yet in humans, this capacity is tightly restricted. Once cells commit to a path, they seldom retrace it. The jellyfish, however, has turned this exception into its very essence. The implications ripple far beyond the ocean. If the secret of the jellyfish could be translated into human biology, it might open doors long considered impossible. Regeneration of damaged organs, renewal of aged tissues, perhaps even the halting or reversal of aging itself. Researchers studying cellular plasticity look to this fragile drifter as a natural blueprint, a living demonstration that biological time is not an unbreakable chain, but a script that can, under certain conditions, be rewritten. Yet the immortal jellyfish is no god. It can be eaten, destroyed, or lost in the endless currents of the sea. Its immortality is potential, not certainty, but in that potential lies a profound reflection. Death may not be as absolute as we believe. If life can circle back to its beginning endlessly, then what is death but an interruption in the loop? The oceans are vast laboratories where such secrets are tested in silence. Beneath the waves, billions of years of evolution have written experiments that no human hand could design. Creatures born in the cradle of salt water have become custodians of mysteries that reach beyond human imagination. Among them, Turritopsis doherni is a reminder that the sea is not only a place of origin, but a place of return. It is the womb of life, and within it, perhaps, the keys to escaping life's end. Philosophers have long wrestled with the image of time. Some see it as a line, others as a spiral. The jellyfish offers another vision, a circle without end, a rhythm that erases the distinction between past and future. If life can return to its beginning, then perhaps death is not a terminus, but a pause before renewal. To the human mind, this possibility is both alluring and unsettling. Immortality, even in its fragile form, raises questions not only of science, but of meaning. If life can be lived endlessly, does it lose its urgency? If death is no longer final, does life itself change its value? The immortal jellyfish drifts on, unaware of the weight of the questions it carries. Its delicate bell pulses with a rhythm as old as the sea. It neither fears death nor seeks immortality. It simply exists, circling back upon itself when time demands it. And in that circle, humanity sees both a promise and a warning. A promise that the arrow of time may bend. A warning that immortality, even when offered, may not be freedom, but a new kind of captivity. For in the end, perhaps life is not measured by how long it lasts, but by what it means. And the immortal jellyfish leaves us to wonder, if life can circle endlessly, is death ever truly final? In the frozen silence of northern forests, winter reigns with an iron grip. Snow buries the earth, rivers lock into stillness, and temperatures plunge to levels where breath itself turns to crystal. Most creatures retreat, burrowing, migrating, or perishing beneath the weight of cold. Yet scattered among the fallen leaves, hidden beneath soil and snow, lies a miracle of endurance. Small bodies, still and rigid, hearts unmoving, blood hardened into ice. They are the wood frogs, and though they appear lifeless, they are not lost. For months at a time, these frogs become frozen statues, their bodies transformed into something that resembles death. Their hearts cease to beat. Their lungs stop drawing air. Water in their bodies crystallizes into ice. To the human eye, they are corpses. Yet with the arrival of spring, warmth creeps back through the soil. The ice softens, tissues thaw, and slowly, impossibly, the frogs stir once more. Life surges back into limbs that had lain rigid, and voices that seemed silenced erupt into chorus. Death had not taken them. It had only been paused. The secret to this resurrection lies within their blood. Wood frogs are infused with high concentrations of glucose, a sugar that acts as antifreeze. When freezing begins, their livers flood the body with this protective shield. It prevents lethal ice crystals from shredding their cells, preserving tissue even as the rest of the body succumbs to solid ice. They are not simply surviving the cold. They are enduring death itself, returning from a state where heartbeat and breath no longer exist. The phenomenon is not theirs alone. Across the natural world, insects, parasites, and even tiny crustaceans employ variations of this Lazarus effect. In arid deserts, microscopic creatures known as brine shrimp, sometimes called sea monkeys, lie dormant as desiccated eggs, waiting years, even decades, for water to return. Once submerged, their husks rehydrate and hatch, life unfolding from what seemed like dust. Certain nematodes preserved in permafrost for tens of thousands of years have been revived in laboratories, stirring after epochs of silence. In the harsh landscapes of Africa, resurrection plants, though not animals, share this strategy, curling into brittle husks during drought. only to unfurl into vibrant green when rain returns. At the core of these resurrections is a principle echoed across biology: suspended animation. Life that pauses its processes to endure extremes. Frogs wield antifreeze proteins. Insects halt metabolism so deeply that cellular activity nearly vanishes. Parasites encase themselves in cysts that resist decay. In each case, the fragile boundary between life and death is revealed not as a wall, but as a veil. Thin, permeable, and, at times, reversible. To modern science, these strategies are more than curiosities. They offer blueprints for survival. Understanding how frogs tolerate the freezing of their organs without damage may one day guide medicine in protecting human tissues for transplants. The lessons of desiccation-resistant insects may hold clues for preserving cells, vaccines, even food across vast timescales. Nature has written within these creatures a manual of resilience, coded into the planet as though anticipating disaster. Earth, it seems, has installed backups into its living systems, ensuring that life is not easily extinguished. Yet beneath the wonder lies a question both scientific and philosophical. When a body ceases its function so completely, no pulse, no breath, no movement, what is the difference between life paused and life ended? If a frog can return from a state indistinguishable from death, where then does death truly begin? Is it the absence of activity or the absence of possibility? In these resurrections, possibility remains. It waits quietly, embedded in tissues and molecules until the world becomes habitable again. The Lazarus effect reminds us that death is not always finality, but sometimes a waiting room where life lingers on the edge of return. The wood frog, thawing in spring's embrace, is not aware of the questions it inspires. Yet in its frozen heart lies a reflection for humanity, that the boundaries we draw between living and dead may not be as absolute as we imagine. That within nature's code, death itself can be rewritten as pause, silence, suspension. And as their croaks echo through thawing forests, one truth emerges. The fragile line between ending and beginning is thinner than we ever believed. From frozen frogs that return with the thaw, to jellyfish that reset their clocks, to tardigrades enduring the vacuum of space, nature has revealed to us a quiet truth. Death, which humanity has long imagined as a single unyielding wall, may instead be a spectrum. A landscape of thresholds, a series of veils, some thin, some thicker, but not always impenetrable. For centuries, human imagination has drawn death as an absolute, the dark horizon that no one crosses and returns. Yet the creatures we have met in this journey show us something different. They remind us that biology is not bound by the simplicity of our metaphors. Life, it seems, can pause, can circle back, can endure in silence until the moment is right to awaken. Death, then, is not only an ending, it is also a mystery of timing. In the Hydra, we saw a body that refuses to age, caught in an eternal renewal. In the tardigrade, we witnessed life suspended so deeply that it appeared gone, only to rise again when water returned. In the immortal jellyfish, time's arrow was bent into a circle, its adult form collapsing back into youth. And in the frogs of frozen forests, we saw organs silenced and hearts stilled, only to beat once more in spring. Each of these stories pushes us to question what death truly means. Perhaps death is not a single point, but a spectrum of states. Activity may cease, but possibility may remain. And as long as possibility lingers, can we truly say life is gone? The universe itself reflects this ambiguity. Einstein showed us that time is not fixed. It stretches, bends, slows, and loops. It flows differently under gravity, differently with speed. It is not the steady march we once believed, but a pliable fabric. And within these small creatures, biology seems to echo the same lesson. Time can be delayed, reversed, resisted. In them, we glimpse reflections of relativity, not in the cosmos, but in the flesh. To consider this is to confront our own mortality. Humans do not yet possess these abilities. We age, we weaken, we die. But what if we did not? If time could be bent within us, If age could be undone, if death could be suspended, what would become of the human soul? Immortality, tempting as it sounds, is not without burden. Without the boundary of death, would life lose its urgency? Without an ending, would meaning itself begin to erode? The creatures we have seen live in endless loops, but they are unaware of what they hold. Humanity, with its consciousness, would carry the weight differently. Immortality might grant endless time, but it might also dissolve the very thing that gives time value, its scarcity. And yet there is another way to see it. Perhaps immortality is not the true lesson. Perhaps these creatures show us not how to live forever, but how to live differently. To see life not as a linear march toward a cliff, but as a cycle, a transformation. To imagine death not as obliteration, but as transition into another form, another state, another possibility not yet understood. Einstein once wrote that time is an illusion. If time is an illusion, then so too, perhaps, is death. For what is death but time's final trick, the illusion that nothing lies beyond silence? The hydra, the tardigrade, the jellyfish, the frog, they all suggest otherwise. They suggest that death, like time, may only appear absolute because we have not yet seen it from the right perspective. Perhaps one day, science will unlock more of these secrets. Perhaps we will learn to borrow from nature's library of resilience, to repair our bodies, to extend our years, even to pause our lives against catastrophe. But even if we never achieve such mastery, the lesson remains. Death is not the wall we once imagined. It is a shifting horizon, a veil, a transformation. As the camera pulls back, from ponds and forests, from deserts and oceans, from the vacuum of space itself, one truth emerges. The universe is not built upon endings, but upon transformations. Stars collapse into black holes, only to seed galaxies with new beginnings. Matter itself shifts forms, never destroyed, only rearranged. Life is no different, and so perhaps death is not the final page, but only the turning of it. Not a void, but a doorway. Not the end of meaning, but its continuation into a form our minds cannot yet grasp. These creatures, small and silent though they are, hold out a message written in resilience. That death, like time, may not be as absolute as we fear. That what we call an ending may only be another rule of the universe, waiting one day to be rewritten.